Hello, everybody. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Georgiana.
And this is Wholehearted Loving, where we teach you simple tools for self-love and compassion to grow the muscles you need to be with big feelings, triggers, and overwhelming sensations in your body.
Whether you have active challenges in your life or relationships, or whether you're just here to learn to be kinder to yourself, we pull out all the little things that make life feel better, the things that give you a sense of hope and direction.
So if you're too hard on yourself or on others,
if you want to feel real, deep connection in your life and relationships,
even if you want to reprogram your inner critic while you're sleeping,
this is a great place to be.
So welcome, and we hope this episode brings you just the tidbit you needed today.
Enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about alignment in decision making. You can find self-reflection prompts for this episode and every episode on our Instagram at Wholehearted Loving, and you can learn more about us and how to practice with us live on our website at wholeheartedloving.com. And before we get started, we will do a body-based self-connection practice to connect with ourselves before we connect with each other and this podcast.
Am I leading it?
Or are you leading it?
Oh, I am leading it. Okay.
Yes, you are.
Stephanie made a special request of what to do for this practice. So she wanted to listen because there are pretty sounds, it seems like, around her that she wants to listen to. So let's use our ears. Let's feel your body on whatever you're sitting, standing, or laying on. And just turn on the ears and notice. Maybe you have to work hard to notice. Maybe you don't.
I think one of the reasons I like specifically the listening practices is because I have infant-sized ear canals that can often get blocked and I have to deal with them all the time. And sometimes my hearing can be really muffled, and if I'm not being intentional about it, it's just annoying. And often it's just annoying. But I have to cultivate for myself this ability to listen to what's happening inside my ears and not be driven nuts by it, you know? So right now, the sound that I want to hear is rain on the metal roof. And it's a bit muffled, right? So to be able to titrate between hearing that sound that I want to hear that feels nice and hearing and feeling the muffledness and being able to be with both feels important.
Neat. I have to say that listening isn't my go-to one, I don't think. I think I like to use my eyes a lot. But what was neat playing with this one was like sometimes there's very obvious things you can hear. And right now, it's not obvious. I have to like put in some effort to hear. And it's this low grade background rumbling of some sort. But what was interesting is the amount of energy and focus I had to give to it was like, I recognized this is more focus than I've given to anything for a while. Like for me, because I think my wiring to feel like my butt on the chair, that's a pretty speedy connection. I feel it. I don't have to focus that much to feel. And perhaps for other people, they have to really focus to feel. Listening, I really need to focus to hear, like things that are sort of more on the quieter end. And I realized I enjoyed that moment of like having the task of focusing, even if it produced no more sound, like not that it produced sound, but like it didn't make me aware of any other sounds. And what it did make me aware of was my breath. And then slowly I noticed, oh, there's a sound to my breath. So that's neat too, where just practicing noticing something sensory, especially if it's not your go-to, can bring up other things that you realize feel good or don't feel good.
Mm-hmm. I love the feeling of focus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, neat. Okay. Thank you, Gigi. So today, alignment and decision making. I think this came up for me because at some point in the last few weeks, I found this on a scrap of paper on my desk, this note that I had made about mind, heart, and gut, and decision making, regulation and decision making, alignment and decision making. And I think socially, kind of culturally, maybe we talk about being aligned, and there's all this lip service being, oh, I'm aligned and integral, and these are now just like words that we don't, what do they mean? Like, what is their foundation in our bodies? And I think when we talk about aligned decision making, it can often be an alignment of mind, body, and spirit. And those are words we're just giving to a feeling of like, yes, this choice feels right. And then we're like, oh, it's because I'm aligned in mind, body, and spirit. But I think there's so much bypassing that goes on with that. And of course, we're going to be focusing on body. I'm always on about neurological activity in the heart and the gut and how important that is to have that system integrated. So you're bringing your whole self to whatever it is, in this case, decision making. And then a regulated nervous system has an effect on that, being able to be with whatever's happening as we're making our decision and really sinking into body and being with what's there. So if you notice your body has an anxious or a tight response to something, we might easily use our mind to go, oh, well, that's my body saying no. Whereas if you go a bit deeper, if you're with that feeling that your body's giving you, you can discover more of what's inside it. And that's going to be giving you more of an integral whole self kind of decision-making approach. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about.
Fun. I like this. I always remember on this topic being at a workshop with Dr. Gabor Mate, and he said something along the lines of the mind, the heart, the gut, the body, those are all important and essential components, and on their own insufficient. I really like that. And I think that speaks to like integration, right? Like being aware of what our mind wants and or needs or thinks is best, heart, body, gut, and bringing them all together for a fuller picture.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times our decision making is not on a full picture. It's not based on information from a full picture. And listening to you speak, what it reminded me of is, when you said, I feel some tightness in my body, so maybe that must mean no, right? It could be that there's part of your body saying, this is a no. It could be a fear part, right? We like to ask the question, are you willing to explore what else is there in the body? For example, is there any part of you, even if it's 1%, that might feel excited or want to feel excited or hopeful or want to feel hopeful or open to feeling hopeful? And this is a really important question. It reminds me of recently being on one of our Priming the Body for Peace calls, and someone had come with, I feel really stuck with a work situation, a career choice I have to make, and I feel really scared. And so we worked with that. We didn't make the fear wrong. We tracked where it was showing up in the body. And then we also got curious, are you willing to explore what else might be there? What else might the body be holding? What else might you have access to if we were to turn some attention there? And that's the piece that we don't typically explore. We just end it at, I feel tightness everywhere. I feel stuck. I feel scared. Right. And what this person noticed was, oh, there is some hopefulness. There is some excitement. It isn't just fear and stuckness. And when I hold the both together, all of a sudden I feel like I have much more clarity about what the next step is.
Yeah, that was such a beautiful whole thing that she presented. I remember that call. I think a lot of the times we're making choices to try to cause our bodies not to feel certain things, you know? And that's the place that I don't want you guys to be making decisions from. I want you to be able to be with whatever your body is coming up with and make a choice from being able to be with all of that. That's where like the clarity is going to come from, and the feelings of hope and that whole self-launching point that we talked about maybe a couple episodes back of like when you haven't expressed all of these things, it's like this heavy bag that you're lugging around with you. And when you can finally put the bag down and just go, oh, like every option is available in a non-overwhelming way. And I feel like I can suddenly move from this place where I felt trapped a minute ago before I revealed it all, you know?
Yeah, it's that. Oh, so I think there's something here about being seen and validated in all of our parts. Even when we do it for ourselves, and especially when we do it for ourselves, that something in the nervous system and the body says, oh, like it sinks a little. It says, oh, yes, you get me. You get that there's many different parts at play. Right? And some people might feel scared to recognize that there's many parts at play, or they might feel like there was never permission to have more than one feeling about something. But it's been interesting noticing that when we practice with people and they start recognizing, oh, there's a tightness in my chest. And I think that speaks to the fear that I feel. Oh, and sometimes they're like, oh, there's also a tingling in my chest, and that's actually the excitement. Or maybe the excitement shows up somewhere else. And maybe the excitement, like the fear might be like 60% or 90%, and the hopefulness or the excitement might just be like 2. We're still noticing that it's there. And all of a sudden, when we acknowledge that that is there too, some type of settling happens. Some type of like, oh, okay, it's all here. It's okay that it's all here. And then it's like you get to marry these experiences together. And some might think, well, if you have more than one feeling, more than one mental thought, they must be at odds with each other. And I've definitely felt that before. Or felt like my heart was at odds with my head, and, you know, all that kind of stuff, before I understood how to really bring them together. And I think what we've noticed is that because there's a nervous system settling that happens when these parts are acknowledged, that then clarity comes. And there's like this peaceful clarity. I don't know how else to describe it. Like, it's like people got washed over with some peace. Their eyes got clear or something. They're like, oh, I know. And I know what to do next. Or they're like, I don't quite know what to do next yet. And I trust that it will present itself. It will unfold. Or I don't exactly know what I'm going to do yet. And I know that whatever happens, I'll be okay.
Yes.
So sometimes that's the thing that we want more than knowing what the answer is.
Yeah. There's no frantic extra thoughts paired with it. It's a simple clarity sort of a feeling. We know what the path is. We might know that the path is not yet clear, and all of that is okay. That is like the purest form of whole self alignment. And generally, there's time, right? It's not so typical for a decision to be life and death urgent, right? Generally, we can take some time to come to that kind of clarity. And that's probably another one of those burdens we put on ourselves all the time, is feeling like we need to know and decide right now, when often we don't. It might seem like we do, but
yes,
emergencies.
Yes. So this reminds me that this is a cue. In the last episode, you said something like, when you feel bitter, it's a cue that you feel burdened, right? When we feel that there's no time, I have to know right away, unless it's life or death, it speaks to there's dysregulation happening here, right? We're really taken over by fear-based thinking and experience. And so that is not the time to be trying to think our way out of the situation and to make a decision. I always tell people, like, if you really feel like it's like you have to make a decision, probably just good rule of thumb, like, don't make one. Don't make one yet. Because you're probably not accessing all the parts that are there for you at that moment.
And what a great time to practice, right? Like, again, there will be times where you do have to make a decision right now. And if you haven't been practicing noticing all those cues and settling your system when it's not urgent, you don't develop all your baseball skills at the World Series, as you like to remind us.
Yes. So let's even make this simpler, because we're building skills. We're building a foundation to then build one skill upon another. If you find that you're making a lot of rash decisions that later maybe you doubt or you regret, or you just put a lot of pressure on yourself to make the right decision and now, how about just noticing when that feel comes up in your body or your brain? Notice, oh, it's happening. It's happening. I'm putting that burden upon myself to know the answer right now, to make a decision right now, and just see what your body might need to support it with the sensations that are present, the experience of that moment, and do nothing else. Just take some time to be with that feeling. Learn to grow your capacity to be with the discomfort of, I have to make a decision now. I have to know the answer now.
Yeah. It's plenty to do to be with that feeling and do nothing. That's plenty of activity. It will require all of your mental and emotional prowess.
Well, and you're putting in plenty of energy already, right? Trying to figure it out and stressing yourself out about it. To me, it seems like return on investment. For some reason, this phrase has been coming up a lot lately in one-on-one and group work. Like, what is the return on investment? You're investing energy and time anyways. If you're going to invest some time and energy on something, how about investing time and energy on learning how to be with some of that discomfort and grow the capacity to be with that discomfort? Because once you know how to bring in some regulation skills, the byproduct is the clarity. The answer comes, or the trust, it presents of I'm okay, whatever happens, I'll be okay. The trust and faith grow, versus putting in all this energy to try to figure it out. And for most people who run on that energy, if they're honest with themselves, they will probably tell us, I never feel that confident with the answer anyways. In the end, I'm still doubting.
Yeah.
Right. And then the next time I'm in that situation where I feel like I have to make a decision and make a choice quickly, I run through the exact same thing again. I actually haven't built my skill level up. Whereas if you're willing to shift where you place your energy and practice on learning to be with discomfort, learning to grow more capacity for discomfort, learning to notice when you're putting pressure on yourself to make a decision quickly, then that gets brought with you to the next time that happens. And then you grow that muscle a little bit more. And the next time you grow it a little bit more. And then you get to this point where you have so much more confidence and ease with making decisions in your life that it doesn't feel that constricting, that you're like, you know what, doesn't really matter ultimately what I choose, because it will be okay. It will give me some information, and then I will just, tweak from there. And I can say this as, I don't know how I would have labeled myself, a recovering, I just felt so bad at making decisions. Terribly unskilled, very panicked, felt like I had to make the right decision, the perfect decision all the time, felt the pressure to have an answer right away. And I just thought that was me. I thought that was my identity. I thought that was just how I was wired and how I would always be. I didn't realize that the ability to make intentional, integrated, aligned decisions is just a skill that you can build.
Yes, right. We talked about this. I think it was in our last Priming the Body for Peace call. A woman asked us if it gets easier. And we were like, oh yes, let me tell you the story of how I used to make decisions and how it feels now. And it really, one of the easiest ways I can use to describe it is that there were so many words and thoughts, and now there are almost none. Like, I would canvass the neighborhood and every person I knew. Here are the problems I'm facing. What could possible solutions be? Talk. And then after the decision and the action, it's like, here's what I did. Got to get everybody's opinion on this. And still feeling totally uncertain and freaked out. And now it's just this clear, it's like a flashlight shines on the path. Off you go. Something will happen next. Don't need to talk about it. Think about it. Hallelujah.
Yes. Hallelujah. And it's really like from practicing really simple and seemingly irrelevant things.
Yes.
And like, I want to make an episode just purely on that. But since we're on the topic, I'm just going to throw this in here. And I usually am not that bold and blunt in the things that I say, but I think this is truth and it's important to say. And you won't get to aligned, intentional, full spectrum, integrated decision making without learning how to pause and feel your feet on the ground, for example, or pause and notice your breath. If you want to be able to make those kinds of decisions in your life, you want to feel ease in your life, you need to practice growing the skill of, can I feel my hands squeezing each other right now? And from there, a whole different world opens up. And you're going to need to have a little bit of faith and blind trust in like that this makes a difference. But it really does.
It really does. Yeah. And there are so many opportunities to practice with us. And it's this accrual process, right? So if you can remember to do this in your own life, congratulations. That's great. If you only do it when you happen to catch a podcast episode, maybe the beginning or the end, or maybe both, great. More drops in your accrual of self-connection felt sense bucket. And this stuff doesn't go away. It just accrues and accrues. So this is what we do in our Priming the Body for Peace calls. It's 1 hour twice a month where we just walk through this and we tailor things to people on the call who are having whatever challenges in life or things coming up for them that they want support with. We'll give you customized things you can do in those moments or around those moments in your own life. And you practice these things at home or wherever you happen to be. And it just adds more of that capacity building until eventually things feel easier and life feels better.
Yeah, what's been really a joy to see in these calls is no matter how heavy and stuck and hopeless someone feels when they log on to the call at the beginning of that hour, something always shifts. Whether it's a little bit more compassion for themselves, a little bit more regulation, a little bit more ability to be present to the body, the ability to have shared something that's heavy and be witnessed in that and feel connection and support. Like something always shifts for people on this call. And just getting to practice. A lot of people know, like, oh yeah, it'd be helpful if I practiced. But sometimes we need some people to do it with, to have it be a little bit fun and light. I think that's another thing. Our calls are fun and light. Yeah. And I enjoy that because this doesn't have to be heavy and dark and hard. Enough stuff is hard in life. There's ways to build skills without feeling horrible about yourself. We like to help you feel good about yourself while you're building skills. And what else did I want to say about this? I think something that's really special, and I think this is one thing that people feel is special about the program, is you can come with anything that you're sitting with, whether it's a celebration or something that feels hard. And like, I feel so proud that we get to do this, is we get to tailor a somatic practice to whatever a person brings in. Whether it's to learn to be with and sit in delight a little bit longer because that feels scary to do, or it's to learn to have something that helps what's hard in their life feel a little bit easier to carry. Like, there's a somatic body practice for everything that people bring in. And that excites me. It excites me that we can tailor in that way. And what's cool is, like, you would think tailoring in that way means one person gets all the attention and everyone else on the call sitting there picking their nose thinking like, this doesn't apply to me. Like, oh, how is this helpful? And it's never like that. It always sparks something for everyone. It always gives everyone something to practice. And that's what's really fun about being on these calls.
Yeah, it's great. Everything in perfect time. And that's one of the things that follows also from this body connection, whole self approach that we've learned and that we bring to everything we do. There's this trust in the flow and the timing. And inevitably, whatever we're highlighting on these calls is important for everybody who's there. You know, what comes up is necessary for the whole group and all the individuals within it. And yeah, that's another part of integration that I think is so important and impactful.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk a little bit more about integration. We also work with people who are going through really, really hard times, who have either done things that they don't feel proud of in relationship or whatever choices they make, or are on the other end of someone behaving in a way that's really hurtful. And a really common thread is to hear people say, oh, but like, they're such a nice person, like they're kind-hearted, I know they're good-hearted, they didn't mean to, and they did this thing or said these things that are really hurtful, or I did these things and said these things that are really hurtful. And like, I'm not a terrible person, am I? And what's happening here is our parts are not integrated, right? My really angry part is like full on driving the bus, and the part of me that really cares about you got thrown off to the side of the road. And I'm really learning how to bring those two parts together. And from that place, make a choice about how I want to relate to you. Right? And what happens when we don't know how to do that yet is we live in very fragmented ways, where sometimes it's the part that's furious with you that runs the show without any calibration or tempering. And other times it's the part that loves you deeply that runs the show. And then when you're living on the receiving end of that, it can be so confusing. Like, where are we at today? Like, what is happening? right? Like, is this part of you going to show up or that part of you going to show up, right? Or we get scared sometimes of ourselves because we don't understand, like, how I know I'm a good person. Like, I'm generally like really kind. Like, what the heck is happening in these other times where like all of that goes out the window? And it's because in those moments we're having a hard time living integrated, bringing all those pieces of ourselves together.
Right? Yeah. Ideally, it's that integrated place from which we'll be making our decisions, our aligned decision making, right? So we focused a bit on our call about body, integration of body and sensations. And then this additional thing you're describing is sort of lives in body and mind and spirit, the fractured parts of ourselves that we need to be with and bring together. That will be like integral decision making. That's a great feeling.
It is. It's such a good feeling.
Yeah.
It's also a feeling where I think it's easier to sit with. If someone doesn't like my decision, it's okay.
Yeah.
Because I really know I like checked in with all of these parts of me, and this is what feels right for me right now.
Totally. The question I always come back to is, what am I doing and why am I doing it? Right? What parts of me are running the show? Which fears are in charge right now? How will I respond if somebody rolls their eyes? You know, what am I doing and why am I doing it? And to be able to look back on that after you've made a choice or taken an action, and to know with confidence what you were doing and why you were doing it. That's what produces that sort of unflappable confidence, that where there's also room to move, you know, a confidence that has freedom, that isn't too stuck in its ways.
And it's a confidence where, like, I feel like even in hindsight, as things unfold, if we look back and we're like, well, that wasn't really the right choice, right? If you want to call it that. I'm like saying right and like with air quotes. There's a feeling of that's okay. Like at that time when I pulled all those pieces together, like that was what fit. And now I have more information. And so I'm going to sit with that and I'm going to see what fits now. Yeah. What has become even clearer with that extra information. And it's what's really beautiful about growing the skills to be able to do this is I think we get to like a much more like self-compassionate place of it's okay. It's okay whatever decision I make, right? I know that it was coming from an integrated place. I know it was coming from a really conscious and intentional and aware place. And now I have more information and we'll see where we go with that information from here.
Right. Yeah. This is giving me a visual that I will share in case it's helpful. If you're tasked with making a feast and you look in the refrigerator and what you have is cheese and bread, then your feast is going to be a cheese and bread sandwich. And in 20 years, when your fridge and your pantry are laden with all sorts of beautiful new things that you didn't have back then, are you going to look back and go, oh my gosh, that one time I only made a cheese and bread sandwich? I think you would actually look back and go, well, that's all I had. You know, there's no judgment. There's no emotional charge. I had bread and cheese. That is what I shared. And today I have all these other things that I can use that I just didn't have back then. And, you know, letting that be okay.
I love cheese and bread.
Me too.
I also love all the other things too. So this cheese and bread makes me think of like regret and being hard on myself. Like that, I feel like is not a part of my life experience anymore. And I feel like it's just an interesting feeling even saying that, because I'm trying to jive with like, who was I and how did I get to this place? And I know who I was and how I got to this place, a lot of practice. And how great it feels to like have regret, and I mean like regret in this, like, I'm going to guilt and shame myself in this long standing heavy feeling I carry after I make a decision, after something plays out. Like, it feels really great to like have that be non-existent in my life.
Yeah. Hear, hear.
And that was certainly not the case before. I lived with a lot of regret, a lot of rumination, a lot of being hard on myself. Like, there was one thing I've spoken about on the podcast before, like one thing I did when I think I was 16, and it was like so minor and like really didn't harm anyone. But like, I was so hard on myself in that moment that I'm like, I've carried this thing for like 30 years. Why?
Yeah.
And it's nice to not anymore. And what's cool about this way, this lens of decision making, this skill set, is you can actually also go back to old decisions we've made and old decisions that you've given yourself a hard time about, and find more compassion for yourself. Right? That it's okay. You have more skills now, you have more tools now. You had bread and cheese before. It's all good.
That's what you had. Totally.
Right? If your decisions and choices cause some hurt or harm to someone, you always have the option of making a repair. And sometimes you don't have the option of making it directly to that person because they're not open or they're not alive. But I still think energetically you can make that repair.
Yeah. We should talk about shame spirals at some point.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm thinking about making repairs. So the shame spiral that results in regret, regret is its own shame spiral. And how shame blocks us from being able to make repair, or can be a placeholder for repair, just a shame sharing, please help me hold my shame, which is not the same as making a repair.
No.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. And compassion being the opposite of that. I'm thinking about a time where I gave a man at a SkyTrain station bad instructions, old instructions that would have been correct once upon a time, but were no longer correct. Yeah. And I felt, when I realized I'd done that, I felt acute guilt for weeks. And I was writing stories in my mind about how I must have inconvenienced him. Like, it didn't occur to me till years later that he might have asked 5 more people after me and gotten perfectly good instructions. But I can now look back on that and feel none of those feelings. Just, I had bread and cheese, and that's what I sort of shoved down this man's throat. But there's so much more ease that I would introduce naturally to that right now to avoid any of these kinds of feelings. Like, just simple qualifiers like, well, this is what I think I know. I could be wrong. Ta-da, all the freedom in the world. Or when people are like, I'll be there in 5 minutes. You could say that, or you could say, I'll be there as soon as I can. Boom, freedom.
Yes, just like that, freedom.
Yeah. Yeah.
I jotted down something that I wanted to say, and now I can't read my writing, so that's okay. I'm gonna trust that it will come back when it needs to, if it needs to.
If it needs to. Yeah. Well, we are running short on time.
We are.
So. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
Nope, my mind has exited the room.
Oh, good for you. Enjoy that.
I know, because my mind used to never exit the room.
Yeah.
Or like, it wouldn't exit the room while my body was still here.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great feeling.
It would just all exit, and I'd be like, I don't know, I just checked out. But no, I'm like really checked in, but there's just nothing in my mind, which was not a common experience for me years and years ago.
That's pretty much enlightenment right there. Good stuff. Okay, well, your body is still here.
Yep.
What would your body like to do for self-connection to close?
Oh, I know. My body wants to curl up in a ball.
Oh.
So it reminds me of, like, you know, when you're a kid, and you don't have to just be a kid, but when you like cannonball into like the swimming pool.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just felt my body. See, like my mind disappeared, but my body said cannonball.
Cannonball. I like that. I'm noticing the restriction caused by my jeans and the discomfort caused by my bra strap. And in the past, I probably would have been like, push through those things because you've got to roll into a ball right now. And instead, my mind's like, what are ways I could be more comfortable? Which is a really nice alternative to what it used to be.
I also I cannonballed for a little bit, and then I rocked on my butt. And then it just shifted into the next thing, which I realized I really like, is hugging my knee. Right? With my, I have my leg bent. I'm sitting on the ottoman with my foot on the ottoman. My knee is bent. And there's something really comforting about just sort of leaning on, laying on, hugging my leg.
Yeah, there's a very good feeling. I've got my fingers interlaced and I'm cupping my kneecap, so bringing my knee closer to my chest. So there's something just very satisfying about that feeling.
Yes. So as we're describing what feels satisfying, I have my knee up. I have my elbow, my arm hooked around my knee. And then I take my other hand and I hold my elbow. And I'm not really describing this for us to all follow along, but I'm describing it to let you know how we all have preferences. How we all have things that feel good in the moment. And are you aware of them? Do you give yourself permission to just really live in them and enjoy them? You know, what's going on? Because, and I say this because we're recording a podcast. You can't really see me sitting like this, but even if you could, I've gotten to the point in my life where I don't care. And I do calls with clients, sitting in whatever way feels good that still allows me to be present with the other person. That's my number one goal, is it allows me to be present with the other person. And if something that was comfortable for me that allowed me to be present really took them out of presence, we'd work on that. I'm not saying hey, do whatever you want and who cares, as long as you feel present. It doesn't matter how someone else feels. I'm saying often, again, I think this goes with our last episode, people don't care. People really don't care how I'm sitting. Right? They want to feel that my energy is there with them and we're co-creating something together. They don't care if I'm holding my leg up and I got my foot on the ottoman. They notice that I'm with them. And this goes to sort of lift off the old burden that was placed upon me as a kid. Sit properly. Right? Feet had to be on the floor, knees together, back straight, all the stuff. Well, I realized my body's super uncomfortable like that. I can't actually be present with you sitting like that. I'm going to be just so aware of how uncomfortable I am, or maybe in the past, maybe not even aware that I'm uncomfortable, but it takes up a certain amount of energy to be uncomfortable. And we only have so much energy to give to someone and to a moment and to a situation. And if part of that is gone to super uncomfortable, then there's not much left for you.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Right. And if you say one wrong thing in some tone I don't like, I'm coming for you. But if I'm comfortable, we already buffer that a little bit.
Yeah. This is reminding me of, remember the woman in women's group who revealed one day that she believed that all people who led groups of this nature wore the same kind of pants, and that you somehow had to wear these kinds of like loose, flowy pants if you were going to lead a group. And I think she was on to something, but with a slight tweak. Like, yes, we have to wear these comfortable pants, but it's not because it's a rule of group leaders. It's because we have to be comfortable. So we just got to wear these comfy pants, you know?
It's true. Yes. I like my pants comfy.
Yeah. Gotta be present.
Very, very comfy pants right now.
Oh,
actually for no pants, but that's different.
I'm in uncomfortable pants. What have I done?
What have you done?
Like jeans. It felt good to be in my jeans. It still does, but it's not. They're not great for cannonballing in.
See, that's the nuance. It's not that, right? So if you wanted to cannonball, you might need different apparel.
You might, yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Or cannonball comfortably, if that matters to you.
Cannonball chic. New line by Lululemon or whatever. I'll write a letter.
I feel like most of their clothing is cannonball friendly.
It's true. Business cannonball casual. Okay, I've lost the plot. Anything else you want to say that's relevant?
No. I'm good. We're good. We're all good.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, well, that's it for us.
Some pants that feel good.
Yeah.
That is the lesson of the day.
That's a good lesson. Solid. Okay. Thank you guys for being with us yet again. Please do like, follow, and subscribe. And if anything we've said here today has been helpful for you, or fun, or silly, please share with somebody that you care about. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.